You are tuning in to the You Are Loved podcast, where we hope to bring love and kindness to the world.
Welcome to another You Are Loved podcast, where we have the amazing Allan Hendrickson, who from his earliest days have been driven and profound. I'm going to bring this over. Driven and profound. Okay, sorry, that got.
It's okay.
I feel like the letters got smaller, but any of this. Okay, so. Okay, from his early days, he's been a driven and profound curiosity to uncover the intricate layers of human.
There's a typo in there, Jackie. It's not you. There's a typo in there somewhere.
Is it? Is that what it is? Okay, I
yeah.
appreciate that. Okay, his lifelong quest has taken him on a transformative journey across the globe, from the spiritual heartlands of India to the awe-inspiring foothills of the Himalayas, where he walked alongside exiled Tibetan monks. These experiences have shaped his personality and allowed him to glean from diverse cultures and traditions, bridging wisdom and everyday reality. While engaging in profound discussions with some of the world's most revered spiritual leaders, he's come to understand the wisdom is not confined to the realm of the extraordinary. By immersing himself in the lives of ordinary individuals, from maximum security prisons to hospice care, he's gained a profound appreciation for the resilience and potential within each human being. And from legal practice to human insight, his journey's been multifaceted, encouraging a successful career as a litigation attorney and orchestrating significant real estate transactions. These experiences have bestowed upon him a unique perspective on the human experience, one that he's distilled into a book that dives deep into the complexities of our potential and challenges, sharing insights, inspiring, and growth. So as an author and a speaker, he's committed to sharing the wisdom and has amassed over a lifetime of exploration. Through speaking engagements and seminars, he aspires to guide us on a transformative voyage, shedding light on the wisdom of spiritual leaders and the tenacity of everyday heroes. His ability to convey these insights with precision and eloquence ensures an enriching and enlightening experience. So let's join him on this journey of discovery. Welcome, Allan. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you.
There was actually a typo in there. It was supposed to. It says I, and it has the number 1 in it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No worries.
So I'm deflecting a little bit. So So thank you so much. It's been a while, so I'd love to hear your story and how you transitioned from being an attorney and then transitioning into being an author of law of attraction and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, my calling, the spirit was moving through me prior to me going to law school in my kind of undergraduate days, and the message was for me to be of service of some way. I didn't know really how that was, but I knew it was in the line of help. And I kind of, even before I ever took my law school aptitude test to get my admission handled, I have this kind of pulling of wanting to go into the best I could find was therapy. And then I was kind of weighing against my identity and being a lawyer and having a stable income, or what I thought would be a better pathway to more riches is really what it was. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was also dealing with something that was going on with me. I had kind of developed this kind of predisposition about myself as being stupid. So I was operating on top of this notion of that, well, I'm actually going to go to law school because then I can go make money there. And then also if I become a lawyer, then I can't be stupid anymore. That was my solution for handling the stupid problem. So the irony and the funniness of that is that I finished law school and then sat for the California bar exam 3 times, passed it on the 3rd try. And then it didn't handle my stupid thing or I'm dumb thing. So then I went to sit for the MCATs, because if you're a doctor and a lawyer, then you definitely can't be stupid. And that's when I woke up. That was the point at which it's, otherwise I'd probably still be in school. I don't know what I'd be taking now.
That's like an eternal student.
Yeah.
And yeah, like he just kept, it was like all the way into like his 30s. I was like, dude, like when are you going to actually like get out there,
Yeah. Yeah. And so nothing wrong with being in the academic world. It was really wonderful. It was really great. But really what it was is my line of my purpose was just not directed into practicing law. So what I found myself doing was trying to manufacture purposes or reasons why I wanted to, practice, and trying to find ways to help the underdog, or trying to find ways, but it wasn't in the cards for me, and it wasn't something I should have been doing. It really wasn't aligned with who I am. And so as I moved out of that, I started becoming more aware of and more conscious of the law of attraction. And I just really got excited about the possibility of having that level of power or that level of say over your life, to where what I think and what I feel can attract to me things that I want in my life. And at first I was like, come on. And then that's where I really kind of jumped into the river, is kind of starting to research and look into it a little bit more, both not just from the law of attraction point of view, but also from, this is energy on this planet. And I had a strong enough physics background to understand that if this is really true stuff, then science is going to have an opinion on it. And, I kind of got into some David Bohm and some string theory and some quantum physics, and found out like, yep, sure enough, down at the core of the smallest building blocks of all this stuff in our physical world, it actually is not stuff. It's just fluctuations of vibrations of energy and information. And what's aligning and causing that those vibrations and that energy to come together and form into masses for us to just experience, is actually the focus of our attention. And when that little piece kind of got into place, it was a pretty powerful kind of cognition, because now I knew that the stuff that I had heard about it, which had resonated with my soul as true, but I didn't really have an understanding. So I was at that particular point, I knew there was something very valid about it, and something very powerful that could actually be a way to create a life that you actually wanted. And I'll tell you something, I'd like to just kind of jump all the way to the end, to like the present time, which is such a beautiful kind of connection here for me. Is it had me reach back out for you, is that, when I first woke up on my journey of coming to tune into my own growth and expansion, it was, some people could call it healing if you want to. I don't really call it healing, because that's like a nonstop thing. What it really was for me was, I became aware of that I was expanding, and then I started keeping up with my expansion. That's a better way to describe what I was doing. And so I sat out noticing that what it was is, there was a way that I was being with myself that wasn't very loving. In fact, not only was it not very loving, it was downright rough. It was extremely rough. And I sat on this journey of learning to love myself, and learning to love myself. And what's culminated in this course that I've just in the midst of creating, probably going to launch here in the next few weeks, is what I came to realize is, we do sit out on a journey to learn how to love ourselves. But what we actually are looking for is this cognition where we recognize is the truth of what we are is love.
Yeah.
And when I had that cognition, it was something that it tied a lot of pieces together, because now at this particular point, I could notice that if I'm treating myself this bumpy and this rough, there's a way in which I'm kind of almost holding my own head underwater. And the second thing that was a really big piece for me, that in your title there was, and I share this with people, and when I share this when I first start working with somebody, it's something that I say like 10 times, and then I have to say it 5 more times typically, and I have to say it at least that many times with myself, and that is to be kind with yourself as you're going through this expansion, because when you go through this expansion, you're going to experience some negative emotions, and there's a real powerful connection to the quality of your life. and how you treat yourself when you're experiencing these things. How kind can you be with yourself when you're going through these bumpy negative emotions? And I'm not saying somebody that gets depressed needs to be any kind of way or change anything that they're doing. What I'm saying is it's just much better, instead of thinking of it as yourself. I say to people, if you could have the ultimate friend come over and serve you right now while you're struggling with this negative condition that you're in right now, how would that person be? And then they begin to explain this person. And then I have this conversation, like, be that person for yourself, like literally become a friend to yourself. Because for me, that was such a, I don't know, such a simplistic, maybe Pollyannish kind of, but super profound reality of like, what would that be like if I actually became a really good friend to myself? You know, like, how would that actually look? And as that started to happen, you know, then I, you know, conversations of like, you know, I was just talking to a group down in Dallas, Texas, and I'd started this conversation of like, you know, so when's the last time you gave yourself an attaboy or told yourself how great you were or really acknowledged yourself for something great you've done, and it got real still. And I liked that it got really still, because it's a real beautiful thing to notice, given what I'm going to tell you next. And the next thing that I said after I just stayed real quiet for maybe 30, 45 seconds, I said, let's start with an easier question. When's the last time you berated yourself or knocked yourself down? And it was like, oh, 5 seconds ago.
Yeah.
Everybody was really right all over to this. So there's this kind of self-denigrating or self-degrading or self, whatever you want to call this, that kind of goes on in the background. And it's extremely debilitating for anybody on this planet to go create something that they want for themselves using the law of attraction as a guidepost, when all they're doing is degrading themselves. You can't get there from that position.
Right.
So yeah, so recognizing it, and that's really about my course, is I had the intention, Jackie, of over the last 15 years, I don't know how many people I've coached, north of 1,000, I'm sure. And one of the things that I've noticed is that there were some things that are patterns that people have developed, you know, with this law of attraction. You know, number one, there's about 7 curriculums. It's, you know, family, job, sex, money, like, you know, there's those are the courses that we're all in. And when I get on the phone with somebody, normally somebody comes to me because they're struggling with some contrast that they've created for themselves. They've got problem with their relationship. They got problem with their work. They got problem with money, and problems maybe with a few of them all at the same time. But there's one that they're focused on. And they've got this problem that's bumping into them. And when I say problem, I just mean they want it to be some way, and then they've got some counter intention that's having it be the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful things for human beings to recognize is that when you have this, when someone shows up to me and they start to tell me what it is what brought you to me, right? What brought you to me? And as they begin to say that, I know exactly what they're after in life. So the first thing I should do, I let them tell me what brought them to me. And now I can tell, like, oh, they want to be in love. They want a relationship. What do I know? Because they're creating the opposite of what they want to experience right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've definitely been self-destructive in that area of my life.
It's not self-destructive. It's not, whatever other label you want to give it is okay.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is you're creating the opposite of what you want.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder why is that? Why do we do that?
Because you couldn't know joy if you didn't know misery.
Oh.
And so what's so powerful?
You said you wouldn't know joy if you didn't know misery. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah. So you wouldn't go talk to every rich man out there. He's been broke.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So there's this, and this is really powerful because it shifts your relationship to your past. When you realize that you created this contrast because you want to experience that, because what you want is the opposite of it. And without that contrast, you would never know you were in love.
Yeah.
You would just be being, right? So it's an incredibly powerful it's very liberating, and it releases and brings a lot of relief to people, is this idea of recognizing why we create this contrast, why we do this. And the contrast is part of our growth. You know, if you look at, here's kind of like this, when somebody has a problem that they're going through, when they're in the throes of it, they aren't very happy with it. And the way that shows up a lot, I'll give you an example, is somebody's going through a breakup and they think that they want this person back. But it's not the person that they want back. It's the feeling of being with that person is what they're after.
Mm.
Do you see?
Mm.
They want the feeling of being with that person.
Oh, yeah. That's probably why some women or men will go back into dealing like abusive relationships or whatever.
Yeah, they'll chase that.
Feeling of wanting. Yeah,
they'll chase that. And then when it actually keeps exploding and getting worse and worse and worse, because the law of attraction will be bringing you more of what you're thinking and dreading, whether you like it or not, right? And eventually the thing blows up, and then they boo-hoo for a while, and then they're sad, and they go through whatever they go through. And then you talk to them 8 months later or a year later, and they're like, thank God that relationship ended so I could have this.
Yeah.
Right? But when they're down in it, they can't see that.
Yeah.
Right? They can't see that. So one of the things that's really powerful when I'm working with somebody is to pull them out and let them start to look at those things from the past, because you can see them as they've happened in the past. And then you can know that that's the same thing that's going on with you as you move forward into the future. And so shifting or altering our relationship to contrast is an extremely liberating, extremely relief-giving ability for a human being to have on this planet, because whether you like it or not, part of your expansion, and you're expanding because it's part and parcel of this universe, is contrast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like not having a good relationship to contrast is like not really comfortably knowing how to breathe. It's that level. It's that level of trouble, Jackie, if you're not really conversant on contrast. Yeah. And so what happens is, as you become able to shift your context and shift the paradigm on how you perceive these negative emotions that you're experiencing in the contrast, you start to now perceive them as guidance and showing you and teaching you through whatever you want to call that. Some people call it God, some people call it your spirit, some people call it your soul, whatever you want to call it. I'm talking about that bigger part of you that's aware of everything, right? Mm-hmm. That one that knows it all. And that part of you is something that is very elusive for people, and its only communication with us is through that feeling. You know, right. It gives us little whispers on things we should do, but when you're going off course and you don't respond and notice that feeling is telling you, hey, Jackie, you're going off course, then it gets a little rougher, and it says, hey, Jackie, over here, you're going off course. Hey, Allan, over here. It's me again.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, that was one of the biggest things and really one of the reasons I sat out on this journey was I was so miserable, Jackie, because I had so much mental resistance and so much, you know, asserted rightness and so much legal knowledge and all this just judging and evaluating everything, including myself. So to bring this conversation around, the recognition that what we are is love, and this being kindness to ourselves is seems so profoundly simple, but an ability to apply that and actually live as if that's the way it really is, really makes a profound difference. Really, it makes a profound difference.
Okay. So I think that's amazing. Like, there was this one speaker that this organization I was a part of, they'd always say, like, your income will never grow past your self-image and like what you believe in yourself, that you can grow that to. And I believe that to be true, that as like we're growing, then our life within our income, our relationships, our own, how we love ourselves, as our self-image grows, that all gets better as well, you know? So you've traveled like to other countries and so forth. And so did you just like stop becoming a lawyer and make the decision to just like go and travel, or?
Yeah. No, traveling came a little bit after. I did my last semester of law school in a summer abroad program over in India. And then I went over to Dharamsala to see where the Dalai Lama was in exile, and then met some monks there. I met and traveled with a guy named Badro, who would be like the Tibetan government's, he would be the equivalent of our Secretary of State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I traveled through the Himalayas with him for maybe a month.
How did you get to meet him?
I went to the compound. I went to the compound in Dharamsala. I made a donation. Just started talking to monks. I had my own meditation practice back at home, so I was conversant in some Buddhist principles. And the teachings that they have is this, it's Mahayana Buddhism, which is middle way Buddhism, which is, not too good, not too bad, like, right down the middle.
Right down the middle.
Yeah. And there's a lot of there's a lot of cleverness and funness and lightness in Buddhism. It's a very light religion. And there's no damnation. There's no, there's none of that stuff going on in there. It's you and this mind thing that's kind of you're dealing with. And so when I went there, I had a real easy time admiring or being with, and I was in such good condition at that time that I was, I was there to go meet these people and meet the Dalai Lama, and I had a purpose and an intention. But I will tell you something funny that happened to me is, you get these models in your mind of how things are supposed to be. And I went to this thing called the Festival of the Masks. I went up through this big, the Tongala Pass. It's like 18,000 feet, way up there. And then we came down the other side, and there's all these monks from all over gather in this place. And when they gathered there, it's about, it's called the Festival of the Masks. They do these dances, and they have these masks that they make. They paint these masks, and it's like, it's really showing in a light way, like, hey, you're not who you pretend to be. That's just a mask.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Yeah. It's really cool, and it's festive and great vegetarian food and awesome. But anyway, so I've got this model, and I've been spending all this time with these monks, and I go to walk into this event, and I turn around, and this monk pushed me. Yeah, this monk pushed me, and I fell down.
Wow, he was an aggressive monk.
I don't know what he was, but it was such a gift to me, because I got up and I looked at my friend Chris, who was traveling with me. He was a law student from New York University. And I looked at him, I said, oh my God, did that monk just push me?
Did the monk say anything to you after that? Or?
No, he didn't say anything. He was just...
Maybe you stepped in his way or something. That's crazy.
But he just shattered my model of who a monk was supposed to be.
Yes, wow.
And it was crowded. It was insane. There's like crazy things going on too there. But it was just an incredible experience of noticing, like, oh, he's still just a human being underneath that monk.
Yeah. That's crazy. Wow, what an amazing experience to be able to go over there, and the fact that you went over there with intention and you were able to accomplish that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it was really wonderful. Early stage or early settings of, one of the things that drew me to Buddhism was, I became aware of, like, I needed to handle my mind, and I wanted to start learning more about meditation. I was, when I was in my undergraduate, I had a professor that I took a class of, it was the philosophy of Eastern religion. And the professor of the course was just a super dude. And then when we started going over Buddhism, we started talking after class one time, and he said, yeah, you can just go over to the Milwaukee Zen Center, and you can go in there and you can sit in on, they'll teach you how to do a meditation. And so I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Right. So, I went to the store and I got a meditation cushion, and, and I think I had a cut off Rush concert t-shirt, and I had a bandana on, and, I walked in, and, I'd never been into anything like this in my life. And then, this little Roshi, this little monk, Tozin, this guy that I became very close to a subsequent to this event, but he just called me, waved me over, and I went over there, and he said, go on in there and find a seat and just sit on your cushion. And I said, I've never done this before. What should I do? And he said, just look at your mind. And I was like, okay. So I went in there, and I sat down, and it was really quiet, uncomfortably quiet for me, horribly uncomfortably quiet for me. And I sat down, and then all of a sudden his words rang for me, like, just look at your mind. And for the first time ever in my life, there was me, and then I saw a thought. And I saw the separation between that thought and me. Like, there was this part of me that was looking at the thought. and I stone cold panicked. I grabbed the cushion, I got up, and ran out of there. And it was the middle of winter in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I didn't even put my shoes on. I grabbed them as I was running.
Oh, wow.
Because I was so afraid of my mind. I had never actually seen it. It just literally freaked me out. So that was the first time that I that I saw that.
I've never seen my mind, but I've felt demonic spirits and I've felt the Holy Spirit, but I've never like seen like the thoughts, even when I've been praying or meditating per se. So that's interesting. So like you were like with your eyes closed, and then you just saw like these letters like just pop up in your head.
I just saw the thought go. But well, here the kind of like if you take your finger, right, and put your finger up in front of you. Go ahead and do that. Okay, now look at your finger.
Let me do this.
Can you look at it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Now close your eyes. Now look at your finger in your mind.
Yeah, so it would be something like that.
Yeah, whoever that was looking at the finger, I had never been in touch with that part of myself.
Got you. Yeah, that's interesting.
So it was a panic, right? It was a bit of a panic. And so then after that, I knew that there was something there for me. Like this was the source of a lot of trouble. I knew at that moment this was the source of a lot of trouble, this mind. And so that put me into a journey of, more meditation, more practice, more meditation. And that's what spawned earlier my trip to India. I don't know why a kid from the United States in law school would go to the cafeteria and see a summer abroad and see the pillars of what is that place over there where they have the very, very, it's just really,
I don't know. It was meant to be, I guess.
The Taj Mahal.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Taj Mahal. I saw that and I just knew I was going. I don't know why or where. And it was just, if anybody gets a chance, if you, I don't know how much you travel, but going to third world underdeveloped countries is just really, really a blessing for us. It's really, really a treat to be out there. But anyway, the point is that the travel has always been for me knowing that it's going to be something that's going to be expansive based on this change of environment. When you get out of your environment and you get into new places, especially where there's a quick example is when I was flying to India, I'd landed in Oman in the United Arab Emirate State. Mm-hmm. And I was committed at that point. I was maybe going to go in the public defender's office, or I was going to be doing some criminal defense work to champion the wrongly accused.
I love that.
The machine, like that's where I was lined up for, right? And so, I had clerked for a very prominent attorney in California, and I worked on the Rodney King case, one of the biggest police.
Wow, you did?
Yeah. And so one of the things,
interesting.
One of the things about that was like, I felt really like, as clean and unjudgmental and unprejudiced, and like I didn't have any prejudices going on in my world, in my universe. And then when I landed in Oman, then all these people got on the plane with these red and black checkered hats that were kind of hanging down. And I freaked out because I thought they all had bombs from all the TV I had watched, right? So there it came up again, right? It was instantly like right there in my face. And then, all the women were wearing veils when they got on the airplane. And that just seemed sneaky to me. It seemed very covert, and like all these prejudices that I had no idea, and these stereotypes that I had kind of laying dormant, all just came rushing up to the surface just from nowhere.
Yeah.
So,
all the unknowns, the insecurities, the societal terms, everything that's fed to us as we grow up,
Yeah, that. And there was a HBO documentary, HBO piece that was called Manufacturing Consent, and it was by this person who's a real sharp dude, Noam Chomsky, who's works at MIT, was at MIT for a long time, and he talked about how afraid everybody is in the U.S. to travel, and less than 8%, I think, of the U.S. population has an active passport, and they found out the reason that is because nobody's going to leave this country, because every time they watch the news from another spot, there's a murder, a bombing.
Really?
Somebody's getting blown. Yeah, every time you turn on the news and it's international news, it's, Beirut bombing.
I mean, like, I wouldn't necessarily go to like Saudi Arabia or Iran or Iraq right now, but I would definitely go to like Dubai, Italy, Spain, Europe, any Caribbean country. Like
Yeah.
but I guess I'm not that targeted audience because I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
I do listen to podcasts, but I don't watch the news, and I have an active passport, and I love to travel. So
Yeah, you don't fit. You don't fit the model. You don't.
no, I'm
You're
not the
the other
targeted
percentage,
audience,
yeah.
and I
But
can't relate to that. So
it's a staggering number when you look at it.
that's
You know?
crazy. It's
Yeah.
like, why live in all these fears? Like my godson and my goddaughter's mom, she's like got this deathly fear to fly, and I have no idea why,
Yeah.
And it's like she's just like huge anxiety, but it's just kind of crazy. Like I have my own fears and stuff like that, of stuff that I try to break through, or if I hear myself whining a little bit, I'm like, just shut up, Jackie, like don't, like, do something about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And but I don't really understand, like I would even probably go to Israel maybe right now. So Israel would probably be like where it's like all these bombings. However, someone I know personally, his daughter was over there for summer on a summer program, and they did have to like get out of certain regions, stuff like that, because it was starting to get bombed. So that was real.
Yeah.
That was based off of, not from media. It was based off of someone that I knew personally.
Yeah. Well, I've been around some of it in my travels, but just to end that story, what he said is that I forget what the percentage is, but like 1,000 times more likely to get mugged in New York Central Park than you are to get in a bombing in the middle of Tel Aviv, right? Like you're in one of the most dangerous places in the world, right?
Yeah.
And you just don't realize it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But I'm also particular to where I go in town and stuff like that. I'm not going to, go hang out where I have a higher propensity of getting mugged,
Yeah. I always take local, true, very true, especially with underdeveloped countries. But, Americans are pretty welcomed in a lot of different places. There's the only place I didn't feel real comfortable or really much at really, really completely good was in Lahore in Pakistan. That was the only time that I felt like these people are looking at me not from like, I'm curious about that American, but like, oh, there's the infidel. Right?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. No, I could feel the difference.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
like,
for
I'm
sure.
just a peaceful man.
Yeah.
So before we like wrap up and stuff like that, Allan, like what is like from your travels, from like all of your meditation, from creating this amazing program that you have put together, and like just like your life up to now, what is probably the top 3 things that have impacted you, or like that have impacted you to become who you are today? Or lessons that you've learned or whatever. Yeah.
Well, maybe lessons and maybe possibly cognitions as well, or realizations. Number one was the discovery or the recognition that not that I had a soul, but that I have this part of me, whatever you want to call that, which is unconditional love, which is the bigger part of me.
Mm-hmm.
And that part of me has been with me forever. And that part of me is who I really am. And I've been spending my life, most of my life, up until actually the last 3 years, I've spent my life trying to find some way to fix myself to get better. Until this recognition of like who I really am, this bigger part of me, this love that I am, has a bunch of things that I've put on top of it, that my life switched, and now I'm just removing things from it. So it went from trying to handle something that was not working well, or that was broken, or that was flawed, which you never get to the bottom of that, that's not fixable, to now my whole game of my life now is about getting myself into alignment, getting myself into alignment, getting myself into alignment, getting myself into alignment. And there's not much that I do. There's a lot, there'll be things that I will not, for sure, not do when I'm not in alignment. And to recognize the feeling of being in this kingdom, or this presence of this alignment, it's really, really blissful. And it's not something that we have to wait till we die to experience. Yeah. And so that was a really, really big one. The second one was noticing the validation of that children live in it naturally all the time. They live connected to themselves almost all the time, or you can call it connected to God, connected to your inner being, connected to source, connected to Christ consciousness. You can call that thing whatever you want. But one of the ways you recognize that that's real and palpable is being around the children. Because when you're in the presence of those children, you can feel it and see it and you can experience it. It's so clear there. And what's really beautiful about them as well is that when you're around them and when they get separated and disconnected, when they're young in age at this particular point, they flip out. They really flip out when they experience being disconnected. Adults experience being disconnected and then they cover it up. And then they get a little bit more disconnected and they cover it up. And then pretty soon they need to smoke something or drink something or snort something or eat something or drag some more prizes of, stuff home.
To keep pushing it down.
They need to handle that relief, because that's really, really painful, Jackie, when you get disconnected from the love that you actually are. It really, really hurts. And I just think that was probably the biggest one of all of them for me, is to recognize that, wow, this part of us is who we are. And then the second thing on the kind of tail end of that is that, we're all in this together. And I didn't want it to be that way at first. I wanted it to be a competitive game, and I wanted to, go become an attorney and then make some more money and have some summer houses around the country and ski in the winter and vacation in the summer and just kind of live that life of Riley, kind of a setup there. And what I realized is that that's not a winning game. That's not really a winning game. The fulfillment and the enrichment is the recognition and the cognition of number one is keeping myself in alignment. And then number two, being of service by not from fixing and changing people, because people don't want to be fixed and changed. And they don't need to be fixed and changed. Everyone's fine the way they are and the way that they aren't. But to be able to do something where I'm living this truth of what I'm talking about, what I'm teaching, and when it gets in the presence of other people, they're able to become aware of, like, what is it that you do? What is it about you that I'm picking up on? And to be able to have that conversation with people, that's something that's very fulfilling for me. And then the third thing was recognizing that, and this is really, really early on in my journey and this kind of discovery, is that you can't really teach the law of attraction without coming into the teachings of Christ. The amount of overlapping that I'm noticing in the teachings from the Bible on, even from somebody focusing their attention on something that they don't want. Yeah. And then noticing that Jesus handled that real easy by, if you got something you don't like, turn the other cheek, just get your attention off it. Yeah. That's so powerful. And learning these things.
I like that explanation of it.
Yeah, it's such a great translation. It really, really fits. And then I spent maybe 2 months, a little over a month in Africa, and then another month with a pastor here, talking about this similarities between the law of attraction and the Bible. And I kept talking to this pastor about, listen, man, you got to get connected to yourself, because that's where the love is. And most people think that they're going to go get some stuff and then they're going to be happy. Then they're going to feel connected. You got to find a way to feel connected, and then you get your stuff. It's the opposite. Yeah. It's the opposite way around. Yeah. And he said, well, so what do you do? And I said, if I don't feel good, I don't continue. I get myself back into alignment, and then I take action. I get myself back into alignment, and I just keep getting better at it all the time. It's like working out. I get better and better and better at it. And he showed me this reference in the Bible: seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all else shall be given unto you. Yeah. Now, there's no fat on that. No. But if you don't understand what that means inside the law of attraction, it can be a little bit, it can just kind of, so a lot of translations are like, become good with God, and then the other things will be happy. Like, no, you got to get yourself into alignment like a little kid. And when you get into alignment, then things start to flow and show up for you. So that piece right there of noticing the overlap and the overlay has been a big validation in seeing these biblical scripture. And by the way, Jackie, I had no Christian upbringing, none whatsoever, none, not an iota, not a lick of it, right? And now I'm starting to explore into this area over here, and it's been a real fascinating part. So really what I'd say is, how aligned the Bible is with the law of attraction has been very validating and very, very reaffirming.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, my parents never took me to church or anything like that. But like I felt like God always just sent people around me to take me, and then I was just had this desire to go when I was younger. And so but yeah, but
You mean
that's
to church?
to go to church when I was younger. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did, huh?
Huh?
You had a desire to go.
I had a desire to go. Yeah, but that was cuz my parents were like not having any of it at all.
That's so crazy at that, like the young. You know, when I was young, I would go with friends with their family. They would always invite me to go with them.
Yeah.
And I used to remember more than once, almost every time near the end, when the pastor would say, if you want Jesus into your heart to become your Lord and Savior, and whatever that whole thing is that they say,
Uh-huh.
come down right now and be saved and be washed out by the blood of the Lamb, or whatever that whole incantation is. I remember I used to sit there and I'd be like, how come he keeps going? How come he don't call on me? How come they're not moving me? How come I'm not? How come they're not? And I remember thinking, it'd be so great, man, not to have to like be responsible for my life, man. It'd be really, really cool if like someone could just kind of run
You
it.
probably were being called on because with the fact that you were having the battle inside of your head was you being called on. You just had to make the decision to get up and go.
Well, I tried to a couple times, and then I'd get to the end, and I'd be like, this is fraud.
Then you turn around and walk back.
It's so great. It's so great. So great. So
One time
great.
I was at church. This is about 15 years ago, but I was at church and I was going to this one church. And so I ended up becoming friends with some of the other girls in church, and long term that was a mistake because I'm kind of a loner. So anyways, so I just had like this urge to stand up. Like I was already saved, but I had this urge to like stand up. And so because nobody was coming up to the front to like dedicate their life to Christ or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so I just walked up, and I felt kind of embarrassed because I was like, I've been up here rededicating myself, and I just felt a little humiliated. But me going up there gave other people courage. And
Yeah.
then a lot of people there walked up. And I still remember to this day, this one girl goes, how did you know? And I was like, I don't know, just because I was so freaked out. But the fact was that the Lord put it on my spirit to go up there. And to this day, I wish I would have responded with that, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So I can't change the past. But yeah, but that was one of my interesting experiences within doing that. But it's been like such a rocky up and down relationship, and really with me, not with God, because I have not always, but did not want to be vulnerable. I kept everything arm distance, and just like because of traumas and stuff like that. But the is that we do that also with whatever our faith is as well, or who our God is, or
It's holographic.
you allowed
Sure.
yourself to be open and vulnerable and really just become unconditional love, which I think is just amazing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to. It wasn't my thing. In fact, when I was first kind of waking up to it, I didn't even like it. I felt uncomfortable saying the word love around people. Yeah, it was that, it wasn't in part of my vocabulary. And, I was raised in like, that's weak. It's all, all that kind of male, kind of machismo, kind of all that kind of stuff, the reason guys die on average like 8 to 9 years sooner than women, because you can't go hug a puppy. All those little things like that, right? And so to look at that reality and how far that reality has come for me full circle to where like now if I don't feel good, I don't do anything to get that back into alignment.
Yeah.
It's so degrading on our bodies. It's so degrading on our spirit. It's so degrading on all of our quality of life being out of alignment. And I joked around with a friend of mine because his son was screaming and he's trying to get his son to stop screaming. I had this, he asked me, like, how do you think I should get Scott to quit screaming? So it turns into this long conversation about being in alignment, and then adults go out of alignment and they don't know that that's what it is. He's naturally in alignment, dude. And when he gets knocked out, he freaks out. So he's not really screaming because he didn't get any ice cream. What he's really saying is like, holy mackerel, this is horrifying. How do you live like this, Dad?
Yeah. So what do you normally do? And then we can get ready to wrap up. Like, what do you normally do to put yourself back into alignment?
Well, that's a really beautiful question. Such a beautiful question. And the first thing you have to be, if you were going to get out of prison, the first thing you would have to do is what? If you wanted to get out of prison?
Find a ride the heck out of there.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can say, but the first thing you'd have to do if you wanted to get out of prison, you'd have to recognize that you were in prison.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first thing when people first start on this journey is there must be a conscious recognition that I'm out of alignment, because most people have learned how to tolerate feeling shitty for so long.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like the dog that sits on the nail, and the guy asked, why is your dog sitting on the nail? And he said, because it doesn't hurt enough yet.
Yeah. Or the cat or the shrimp, they put in the water and it gets warmer.
Yeah. Crabs in a back bucket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the heating up there. So the first thing you have to recognize is that you're out of alignment. And that's the negative emotion will let you know that you're out of alignment. And so once you notice that you're out of alignment, the action that there is to do is, and this is so powerful, it depends on where you catch it at, Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
When you first begin this journey of practicing getting yourself into alignment or back into alignment, if it's like way down the road and you've got a lot of momentum going, go take a nap, go take a bath, go get a massage. You know what I mean? If it's heavy, don't try to fix or change anything. Go just throw in the penalty flag and get out of there.
Yeah.
But as you begin to practice staying in alignment and noticing that your natural condition is love, and that you should be walking around loving, and people should be attracted to you in the store and want to say hi to you, and like, when those things are happening, you begin to feel this way. And that way that you're starting to feel is things are now flowing through you the way they're supposed to. Energy is. Mm-hmm. And then as you begin to practice this more, you'll be able to catch it sooner. So if I threw a bowling ball and I was going to roll a bowling ball at the top of a hill, and I said, I'm going to let this bowling ball go, it's 100 pounds. And once I moved the thing out of the way, I said, oops, stop it. Well, once the ball rolled a couple times, you could grab it and stop it pretty easily.
Yeah.
But if you're standing at the bottom of the hill and that ball's rolling down there,
you're getting the heck out of the way.
You're getting out of the way, or you're going to get run over. And that's how this negative emotion realignment is it depends on how long the momentum's been built up. So the earlier you can catch it, the better. But when you first start, you've become so accustomed and so used to like these patterns of feeling bad, and these patterns of negative thinking, these patterns of negative beliefs, that it's hard to become aware of it. But it gets better. It gets better. It's like, did you ever work out and feel like and eat good and you feel like you're in really good shape?
Yeah.
Cool. And then if you stop for a while, like maybe 3 years or something, and then you're like, you're just you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then you can go back to, you know what that thing is.
Yeah.
You know how that feels.
Yeah.
Well, we are innately like that. We remember how that feels. And so when we don't feel like that, we get nasty with ourselves and other people.
Right.
It's not that we're nasty or mean. I just said this to a friend last night. There's no jerks, buddy. There's just people that are living disconnected, acting that way. And if you can get some understanding about him, you can have some compassion. So if it's early, Jackie, if it's early, you can catch it and just maybe reach for some better feeling thoughts. But if it's late, you're better off to take a nap or go get a massage.
I hear that.
Great question, by the way. Great question.
Yeah. So Allan, I think we're going to wrap it up. And why don't you let everybody know where they can find you? And then I'll have the links and stuff like that in the podcast. and this will go out in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, great. So, yeah, that's great. So that's perfect. That might be real coincidentally, like right around the launch of this new program that I've got, living the law of attraction. And can I just plug that course real quick?
Yeah, please go right ahead.
Good. Thank you. So one of the things that happened to me, Jackie, was, I was real cerebral. Like I was just loaded down with all this knowledge about the law of attraction, but I wasn't living as if I knew it.
Right.
And so, my body wasn't feeling good. Like, I was feeling a sense of malaise. Like things were not right. Things weren't right. And I wasn't creating and flowing. I wasn't really feeling like very powerful. But then I had this kind of trying to maintain this reputation of this person that knew all this stuff.
Right.
And why wasn't it working? Right.
Yeah.
Why wasn't it working? And so when I ended up with a medical diagnosis, who cares? They don't really know what it was. It was a lump in my throat that they said was a tumor. And it was a wake-up call for me. Mm-hmm. And when that whole wake-up call took place and hit me, I shifted everything almost immediately. Like, I went from meditating occasionally when I did to like, it's a core part of my morning, every morning. Like just really put the discipline on all of the teachings and all of the knowledge that I actually possessed, and actually really got committed to it. And when I created this course, I created it with the intention of really giving people the ability to understand the law of attraction, bring it into their life, and then come back with some questions to where they could actually understand these laws and then do it for themselves, not be dependent on somebody that they need to go to visit every week or every 2 weeks to talk about things that aren't going well. Like get them out of that and let their self-determinism and their natural zest and vitality just to reinstate and get this back into that natural condition, because it doesn't take a lot of work. It just takes a commitment and a burning, as what's his name, the Think and Grow Rich said, a burning desire. You got to want to get better. You got to want it. And so the course is, it's a 3-day course. And at the end of that 3 days course, and it follows up with a series of phone calls where you then take this knowledge out into your life and then come back and get these questions answered. So that course you can get and find out more stuff about me at achendrickson.com. I'm AC Hendrickson at yahoo.com is my regular email address. I answer probably 10, 15, 20 emails a week from people that are like, that I've met like throughout my day. You can buy my book on my website. I've probably given away. I've taught this course in a couple maximum security prisons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just really, really beautiful. And I've probably given 200 or 300 of these books away, and my email address is on the back. And I always tell people, like, I wrote this book with the intention, Jackie, if somebody is really struggling in life and they were going home for Thanksgiving and they were riding the bus, they can start themselves right here
and finish it by the time they got home.
That's it. Yeah, they'd be on the way. So I'd love to hear from people. It's really a privilege for me to get to share this information, and whether we like it or not, Jackie, we're in this together.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll make sure that I have your description. I changed the name of the podcast to A Transformative Journey Across the Globe with Allan Hendrickson.
Okay.
If that's okay, but I can put it back to law of attraction. I haven't.
No, you put whatever you want up there. You can put whatever you want up there.
Well, you didn't seem to be so enthused by that.
I wasn't so enthused with what?
No, just your response was just like, okay.
No. I want whatever resonates for you.
It's just I read it out of your bio and it just really caught me. And I forgot that I had already created something else. And I was like, oh, I really like that. So
Jackie, here's really what's so like, I lived all those experiences and then I had them and they were so rich and so valuable to me. But what I like to talk about is this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I have to be really, really careful because
it brought you to who you are today.
Yeah. So that's great, and it's just a story.
So, okay. Well, Allan, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. And I hope you have an amazing day. Okay.
I will. Thank you. And we'll talk soon.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm glad you're doing well after your hurricane adventure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It was great. All right, love. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, for coming on to another You Are Loved podcast. If you can, check us out at youareloved.store. The link will be in the bio, and get your planner. We have one that we're going to be launching for next year, but we are super excited, and I hope you all have an amazing day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of You Are Loved. If you have any topic ideas or would like to be a guest on the show, please hit us up on Instagram at youareloved.store.